Hey everyone, I'm out here in Seguin at the farm, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this experiment we would like to conduct. It's got two components, a solar and a lunar component, the two columns. And because of the nature of this land, even my gardens back there are a disaster. Everything's overgrown. There's no livable buildings out here, just two RV hookups and a well, and then a bunch of old abandoned decrepit buildings that can't really be used. It's going to take a lot of time to kind of terraform this property into something where we could build a little community of life. So the experiment has to unfold in stages, really, and the solar component has to come first, because we want to terraform the entire 65 acres, not just this little 4-acre plot where all of this wooded area is. So you can see back behind me, this is just pasture land. It was used for traditional agriculture up to about 30 years ago when David, the owner, bought the property. And so you can see it's got some good pasture out there, and we're excited to get going. It's got some beggar's willow out there, and then some mesquite further back, but the property goes all the way back quite a ways, and the property is not fenced off. So the solar component involves cattle, ruminants. After 2 years of doing regenerative farming, I found that it can help the planet in that it brings people's awareness to regenerative practices, organic food, the right kind of organic. And it brings more minds to think, in a very positive light about the planet. And that is really kind of step one of reversing this disaster that we've created on our world, is getting people's perceptions changed about food and how we grow it. But if we want to really make significant change in terms of carbon, we have to use ruminants, cattle. One of the reasons why it's so dangerous, these people saying that we need to get rid of cattle, I wanna smash that misconception, because we need cattle in order to save the planet. So what we are going to be focusing on in this solar phase part one is what's called Management Intensive Grazing. And this is trying to replicate nature. So we use larger herds on smaller paddocks, and we use electric fencing to move them daily, if not twice a day. And we don't let the cows graze all the way to the ground, because that destroys the ability of the grass to regrow. We just want them to get the most tasty parts of the grass, which is like the top third, and then we'll move them to greener pastures. This does a number of things. It concentrates all the urine and the cow poop, so that you get a natural fertilizer. And instead of it just being clumps here and there, you have it more concentrated, so when your dung beetles come out, they can kind of spread it for you. And the other reason being the action of the hoofs on those large animals. It breaks up the soil and it exposes seeds that have been lying dormant, just waiting for the right conditions to happen. So this the grazing part of this experiment, it's going to begin. We have 4 acres here, T-posts put up around 4 acres, and this is going to be the part that we irrigate. So we're going to put barbed wire around these 4 acres, and then our water source is back over here, so we've got to dig it out and then bring it out here. So we're going to irrigate these 4 acres, and that's going to be kind of a base of operations. And as we as they graze these 4 acres, then we're going to start moving them out into the other 65 acres after we put a perimeter fence around of electric. And we're going to just move them from one part of the farm to the next, so that the area in here that which is being irrigated can have time to replenish itself. So that's a cycle of about 25 to 30 days. And what we want to do here is we want to conduct essentially an interactive experiment. When you see farmers on YouTube and whatnot, you generally see their farm already developed. You don't really see the process of development. And so that's really what we would like to do out here for this first solar phase of the experiment, is bring people in, the kind of reality TV that we really should have, instead of the trash that we do have, is bring you out. We want to create an army of Carbon Cowboys, stewards of the land. And I'll touch into my my disabled or my veteran, Texas veterans, in order to find the right kind of people that can, receive that calling. And then we'll bring them out here and bring these mobile offices, set up shop out here, and kind of live out in the wilderness while we go through this process of fencing, developing, setting out a plan together. And the goal of this is we want to conduct this experiment on these 65 acres. We're surrounded by traditional farms and traditional ranchers, and we want people to be able to see the kind of impact that we make on the land using these different practices. Because when I drive out here, there are a lot of these farms that are just, if there's not corn planted, then it's just bare soil. And much of the year, it's just bare soil. And I know from gardening over here, bare soil is anathema to healthy plants. It just makes things more prone to disease, and it's harder to keep them watered. They just don't grow right. But when you cover the soil, you have life that begins to just exist down there in the soil, and you begin creating this kind of biome that you want in the soil. And so what we would like to do is, once we get this developed out here and we start, making an impact, people start asking, what are you guys doing? Then I'm going to start talking to some of these farmers around here, and we're going to see if they might be interested in conducting an experiment with us. So, there's a carbon market out there, and there are people and projects around the world that are generating carbon credits, and farmers, corporations buy those credits, and farmers, pretty much anyone, can initiate a project to receive carbon credits that they can then sell. And so the idea is to kind of create a new industry of carbon cowboys, and then devise, and this won't be us, I'm sure someone will come along that will help us do this, but devise a new kind of market, a new kind of industry almost, of carbon cowboys that are going to go out to these really, really destructed, soil areas, and partner with them to bring things like cover crops, some kind of forage out there that we can then take our mob and graze on. And so there they get the dual benefit of having to be able to sell carbon credits, and to have their land regenerated the natural way instead of paying money for fertilizer. I mean, it would be wonderful to be able to provide something to farmers that prevents them from selling to, these big development companies that come in and raise everything to the ground. I don't know how realistic that is, but I do know that if we begin to work towards rectifying these farmers' land that has just been abused for so long because of these practices that they've been imposed upon, then, I think that it's going to make the end of their life, their retirement, a lot more healthy, happy, and spiritually fit when they see, what once was kind of firebombed soil just, burst with life after we bring these animals out here. It's really amazing. I don't think that to reverse climate change or prevent it, we need to rely on man. I think God gave us all the tools that we need in order to fix the planet. And indeed, that's the reason why humans exist, to rectify God's creation. So we are co-creators, but we have to ask God for his help and his power and in order for us to do this. And if we walk in his ways, then we can really affect change. And I believe that we can ask him to control reality for us to help us conduct this experiment. This county has been in an extreme drought all year. Everything was just dead. None of these farmers had a harvest. It was just all really, really bad. And so what if, they were given an alternative to plant grass, and then, they have young people out here that are warriors for God that are praying for rain. I believe that God will bring the rain to make this experiment work. I really do. And I think he's just waiting for us to ask him to reveal himself. And once we begin asking and having this conversation, people start thinking about God in a different way, a new paradigm, then I think that we're going to see miracles happen. In fact, I know that. And I think that that's kind of why I'm here, is to kind of bring this revelation that we're not completely helpless. We're not victims. We were given power to be we are in the image of God and given the power to create as he created for us. And he's just waiting for us to wake up and realize that and begin to ask and to honor him in all that we do. So as we're developing this army of Carbon Cowboys, we're going to be working on the garden back here, and we're going to be doing biodynamic agriculture, biochar, lots of experiments. We're going to be creating a food forest. There's a really beautiful verdant area back there shaded off that we'd like to just inoculate with mushrooms and have a food forest where people can go and just pick whatever they would like, the ones that come out and visit us. So the solar aspect is definitely got to come first. We have to prepare the way for, the children to come out, and the pregnant expecting mothers and the elderly who want to come out and help us with the garden. We kind of have to make this a much more hospitable environment, because right now it is like living in the desert. It reminds me of the Fremen in Dune, where they live out in the desert and they're holy warriors, and this is really what that feels like. We're kind of out here and we're in this world but not of this world, and that's kind of the point. So we would love to have a solar farm out here that can power everything, because I don't really want to put a whole lot of electric stuff going on. It's not that we have to pay for. We want to be off grid. We want to escape. We want to create a bubble, a little micro society, and then I think if we begin this process, this experiment, then people around us will start paying attention. Some of these farms that get sold off, maybe someone of like mind will buy them and then create their own community, so we can have a collection of farms. And we develop a little bit differently. None of these single family home subdivisions where everything is just sterile and toxic, and it's just more sickness that we've been going through for a long time. So if we want to change, if we want to live in a better world, we have to ask for it and we have to work for it. And so I'm really excited to get this program launched, the campaign. I hope you guys pay attention. I'm I have my doubts, but I have faith that no matter what happens, whether we make the money or not, that God has it all in part of his plan, and that I'm just doing his will. And I try to do that more and more every day. So anyway, hope you guys are having a great week. I hope you're not getting too tied up in a knot about the stuff going on in politics. I just would rather, step aside. Leave it in God's hands. Let man be man and let God be God. So anyway, you guys take care.